5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And it's live.
This is Leicester Till I Die TV. Watch and subscribe on YouTube and listen on your podcast platform.
Hello, I've actually stopped saying all the good evenings, good afternoons, because at the moment I'm finding it hard to feel that there's anything good about this club at the moment. But look, we're going to have a moan. This is the therapy session. My own therapist once told me it was good to talk. So let's get it all off our chest today. I'm sure Ant will probably going to argue with everything I say because I know he's loving life as a City fan at the moment, although obviously he would have preferred to have Sean Dyche at the helm. But we'll find that out about him. And I just want to pick, before we get him in, I just want to pick one comment up here. And this is from Tina. And she said, "Oi, you've made Ant look old." I've actually, if you go back to the original artwork that I did, I tried not to make him look old. It wasn't that one, but somewhere I've actually tried to make him look small. Life size, in fact, you could say. This is the City Catch Up. Good evening. Let's start the show and bring Auntie. Anthony, good evening, sir.
Evening. To be fair, I thought you'd made me look really feminine on the that picture instead of like old or anything else. So
I think it was possibly, and I'm looking, it was the one that I did for the promo on the social media. And there was a sort of height difference on that one. I may have made you look, oh, it could have been this one. Do you think you look old on that one?
I do, but I still look a lot younger than you, so I'll take it.
I'm not going to argue with that. I will accept that I'm taller, but I'll also accept that I'm a lot older on that. Which makes watching this watching Leicester City so hard at the moment. I had to write, and in fact, I've not even checked if it's gone up yet. I had to write my blog this week for the BBC on the BBC Leicester City page. Yes, my fans' voice thing is up there, so please go and check it out. It is titled, "We are preparing for life down the scrap heap," because we're not even preparing for life in the Championship, are we?
The thing is, we know that the EFL are going to throw the absolute book at us when we go down. The clubs seem completely like burying their head in the sand. Oh, everything's going to be fine. Just need to stick together. I think a word rude to using a lot is united. When you've got supposed leaders in the dressing room wanting to and happy to force a move through on deadline day, to the team you're competing with to stay up, it's like, just like, what is going on?
I mean, look, everybody says, "Oh, be careful what you wish for," and I'm not saying I necessarily want top out. I just want top, and I've said this before when it came to Cooper, to show a pair, because I'm joking this about Man United is changing the manager, bringing in a £1 million, £10 million, 20, £40 million player is not going to change their club is rotten to the core. But then you look at us.
Are we any better?
Exactly.
The issue that I have, and I'm sure we're going to get into Rudkin and Top and all of this.
Oh, yes.
My issue is, I think Rudkin and the board are the big issue. And obviously, Top doesn't really have a hands-on approach. But how long can you keep saying the people below him are failing him? It's like they've been failing him for years. At what point does that start to become on top? Because he's just leaving them to still crack on and crack on. It's like it's neglecting the business and the football club, to be honest, by leaving them there. And it's like, as much as people say, "Oh, King Power have been fantastic for Leicester," they absolutely have. And we've lived the dream, and we were the envy of so many fan bases for such under Vichai. Under Top, less so. And I do have sympathy for Top of the situation that he's taken over.
Yes.
But there's no surprise that both ourselves and Leuven are both staring down the barrel of relegation.
Yes. Look, I wouldn't wish it on anybody to have parents, children, any family or friends die in tragic circumstances. And I said this about Harry as well, with everything that he's been blaming everybody for. It happens. And you cannot, we can't keep looking at Top and going, well, look, he's not his dad, but he's trying. He could have left us. Yes, he could. My last line on my blog was, be careful what you wish for, but whatever we wish for couldn't be worse than it is at the moment, could it?
The problem is, because I think we've been so low as a club where we nearly lost the club, I think until it gets to that level, you're going to have a certain level of fan that's just like, oh, well, he cares about the club, he's trying, he's doing this, that, and the other. The thing is, I don't doubt that he cares about the club, but at what point do we have to say enough is enough? Like, how many times can we just go in circles doing the same thing, like making the same mistakes? Chris, we were having this conversation the year we got relegated originally about Rudkin not being the right man, about Susan Whelan sort of not knowing what she actually does, but clearly knowing Rudkin as a director of football is like not doing well enough. And we're having the same conversation again now, and it's like, how can we keep saying, "Oh, I want Top Top's the right man," but it's the people below him. How long are those people below him going to be kept in place? Because there's only one person keeping them there.
Him. No, exactly. It's like people always say, "Oh, it's the 11 players on the pitch. You can't blame the manager." The buck stops with the manager, not just in football, in any job, in any company. And the bigger buck stops with the guy who owns the company. And something else I put in my blog today was that, people are saying, "Oh, look how he's written all this debt off into shares." But it was under his leadership that we accumulated that debt.
It's like, how many times can we keep getting into debt? Him keep writing off £100 million or whatever it is of debt, and it to be looked at as a positive thing. How about have someone who's running the club not giving Connor Cody $100,000 a week, and the wages are ridiculous, by the way, across the club, to stop getting us in that situation? Then he wouldn't be having to write off this debt. It's like, it feels like we're praising him for putting out a fire that he set himself.
This is it. Like I say, this has all happened under his stewardship. Yes, we won the FA Cup under his stewardship, but it was like, when Peter Taylor took over for Martin O'Neill, we were top of the Premier League for 2 weeks. I grant you it was an international break, so that helps. But it was only when he started to implement his schemes and by his players in that it started to go wrong. Same with Claudio. When he took over, he won that with virtually Nigel Pearson's team. But when he started to bring his own players in, it started to go wrong. So I think of the FA Cup as being, if you like, the last bits of the Vichai era.
It's like anywhere you go and any walk of any sort of work, there will always be a hangover of the previous regime or the previous owner
Mm.
or probably I'd say 12 to 18 months before you really do like start to see the new leadership and the new regime of what they're about.
Yeah. I'm not sure about this, Scott, father and son. You know, is it in the Bible where somebody put a baby in the basket and put it in the river and let it float away?
It's closer to being grandfather and son, but we'll grandson, sorry.
Boom. No.
Oh, Chris, you've missed having me on, mate. You've missed it.
Give it out. I've got to take it, mate. I've got to take it. Just, I wish I'd never gone back in the river saw and got that basket back though. Right. Let's have a look then, because we will cover these things in a bit more detail as we go along. Did you know this new video is out, by the way? The January transfer window review, Dumb and Dumber.
The thing is, people weren't like this. Susan Whelan doesn't actually have a huge amount to do with the football side of the club. And like, as a business, the club's doing very well. And that's her side of it.
But yes, she doesn't have anything to do with the football, but all this trouble we have, and we're coming to the January transfer window next, and about PSR. But surely she has something to do with PSR and balancing the books.
Potentially so, yeah. I'm more familiar with what Rudkin's role of a director of football will entail, because that's all football operations and
exactly
everything football related then falls. Like when it's going well, that's his responsibility. When it's not going so well, that's also his responsibility.
Yes. Yeah. No, well, that's why I've said today, Susan Whelan is the business side, but it's the business side that's fucked us up basically with PSR, and we can't actually, do anything. I mean, I find it incredulous that Top, who is the owner of the club, didn't want Cooper, but then still allowed the guys to employ him. Having to pay him off affected at the January transfer window, apparently.
Well, I'm not surprised, but the issue is, and we saw yesterday, Top was playing polo in Thailand, I believe. So it shows that he is very hands-off in the running of the club. You'd think if he was going to be hands-on, you'd be there and obviously there for deadline day. I know you can communicate via emails and this, that, and the other, but you'd think really you'd be there and trying to be sort of hands-on and involved. But the Cooper situation, and then yesterday, it shows it more and more. It is Rudkin who's running the show. So I'm sorry. If you don't want a manager and you're the owner, don't give him a job. It's not a difficult thing to say. It really, I really struggle with it. I really do. But at the same time, I still think Steve Cooper was treated very harshly, and people won't like this. Those players throw him under a bus, whether you like him or not. To stop playing for a manager because you don't like his tactics is a disgrace, because you're not just playing for that manager. You're playing for the club, you're playing for your fans, and you're playing for the professional pride. So some of these players need to take a real hard look at themselves. I'm fed up of everyone just sort of blaming one person or another. These players are as culpable as anybody. And then I'll tell you what else annoyed me whilst I'm off on a rant, is that, you know the night they got sacked, all out partying, Enzo, we miss you, this, that, and the other. Well, you look like a bunch of dickheads now, don't you?
Yeah, I'm still not convinced that Enzo, we love you sign wasn't nothing to do with the players, and that it was sort of just somebody who was trying to get a scoop in the paper by, sticking a sign behind the window or something,
But you've seen enough players call out that kind of stuff when it's not them involved and just put it as fake news, like rubbish shit very quickly.
I don't know where I've seen it, but it's something I've seen, and I could well have dreamed it, to be totally honest with you. But it was an interview Mark Albrighton was doing. I was on one of the podcasts, I'm sure, and he was asked about throwing Claudio Ranieri under the bus. There was 4 players: him, Vardy, Wes Morgan, and there was another one, I'm not sure who. And he admitted that they did throw him under the bus virtually. So if they've done it once to a guy that's just won them the Premier League, they're not going to worry about doing it to Steve Cooper. And the funny thing is, and look, as you know, I was quite happy with Steve Cooper because I thought he'd keep us up. I was quite happy then for him to go and Ruud van Nistelrooy come in. But we were actually better off, points-wise, under Steve Cooper than we are under Ruud van Nistelrooy.
Yeah, my thing is, I didn't want Cooper, and I wasn't too sad when he got sacked. But what annoys me is the attitude of these players, just to throw manager after manager under the bus. And I believe it was the Ben Foster podcast where Mark Albrighton went on, because he also talked about Seagrave, didn't he? And about how it's...
I believe so, yes.
It's
just a clip I saw on TikTok.
But, yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and say I think Steve Cooper was the answer, this, that, and the other.
No.
I don't think he should have been appointed in the first place. But I also don't think that the players should just be able to stop playing and throw a manager under the bus in the way that they have done for him. Now we've got Ruud, who I'm really not convinced by Ruud at all. But at what point I half hope we stay with Ruud, because I think you could put anyone in charge and we're going down.
Yeah.
But I just think we need to stick with a manager and back them. But at what point do we stop saying to these players that you can just phone it in for a couple of games because you don't like a manager and we're going to sack them?
Is that, do you think, because Top is too friendly with the players, too chummy with them?
Well, I've heard, and how true it is, I don't know, but apparently Top is one of the only owners who's got like players have got direct sort of contact with, compared to most clubs. That communication will go through like directors of football and other channels.
Yeah, that has to be. You can be friendly with them and you can treat them to whatever's, but there has to be that sort of line, doesn't there? And you can't. And again, this is not just football. This is any business. If you feel something you're not happy with, you go first of all to your manager. If you don't get, if you're still not happy, then you go to your area manager or director of football. If there's a chain to go up, isn't there?
The thing that I don't want to say it's necessarily a horrendous thing, because when we were at our best, there was that family feel to the club. But Vichai was very much hands involved. He was on the training ground. All the players knew him. All the players loved him. So it can work in one of two ways, but you knew who was in charge. There was no sort of questions asked about that. Now who's really in charge? Is Rudkin in charge or is Top in charge? Because Top's the owner, but it feels like Rudkin's got free reign to do what he wants.
I mean, I wonder when Vichai was around, he was sort of the overall looking, over in Thailand, and Top was maybe more involved in the running of the club. Now Top's over in Thailand. Like you say, Polo running King Power. Maybe he should be letting his brother have more direct hands-on influence in the club.
I just think we need a complete reset, to be honest. And it's getting less and less that you sort of have owners that are very much hands-on. I think the only one is really Forest, if you look in the Premier League. But a lot of them are done by recruitment teams and recruitment specialists. Like you look at Brighton, where it's all very heavily data-driven in terms of transfers. And I think that's the way to go. And I feel like we're, from all reports from people like Rob Tanner, John Percy, we're very far behind on that. And I think that's something that frustrated Enzo Maresca massively.
Yes. I mean, sticking with this, first of all, Gray says there, and does this team want to play for any manager? I think the question you should be asking is, can this team play? And just leave it at that.
I know what you mean, but I hear what Gray saying, but and it's not even it's to the point now. It's like, do you want to play for yourself and do you want to play for this club? Because that's where it's frustrating. It's like, for me, that Everton game, that was a disgrace of players that just completely gave up.
We will be coming on to that in more detail later, because I'm still fuming about it, to be honest with you. Looking at the January transfer window, we actually weren't the lowest spenders. According to The Athletic, West Ham, Forest, Newcastle, Liverpool, Fulham, Everton, Brentford, Arsenal all spent nothing. Taking Everton out the mix, we were out of those that spent any money, we spent the lowest, if they're there at 3. But Southampton spent 4, Palace spent 12, Ipswich spent 20. Even United spent 30. Teams that are, and Wolves have spent 42. They've taken the gamble that they've needed to spend to try and stay up. All right, we're trying to keep under PSR rules, but that'll mean sweet Fanny Adams if we get relegated.
It's like they don't. To me, it feels like they've thrown in the towel already on this season. Like,
but you've got to, surely you can't look at the season that we've had and go, yeah, it's all right. All right. We know we were looking at 17th. I mean, if we'd got the points deduction, at least we'd have that to blame. But we haven't got the points deduction, and we're still shit, and that's the thing. But it's been a joke this January. I mean, we've bought one right back. We've let a goal scorer go when we have got players that can't score. Like Jamie Vardy gets the odd one every now and again, but let's be honest with you, he's not necessarily past his sell-by date, but he's certainly past his best before date. And yet we let somebody like Tom Cannon, and we're saying like, oh, he's only a Championship player. Well, the thing is, he could be a Premier League player next year if Sheffield United get promoted, and it looks like they will. And if we go down to the Championship, surely that's what we need.
It just boggles my mind. And it's like the fact, I understood why we sold him, but then you reinvest the money. Like, don't just sell him and then sit on the money. It's like, and people have said about what other clubs have done this window. I'll be honest, I couldn't give a flying F what anyone else has done. No one else has got as bad of a defensive record as we have. But we need centre-backs. We need a right winger. We've got neither. And if we get relegated, which looks more than likely, it is fully deserved. And there's some people in this club who will need to have some seriously uncomfortable conversations about their position.
Well, those are the same uncomfortable conversations we were talking about early on in the season, though.
Yeah, and it was probably the same conversations we were having 2 years ago. And but question for you, saying about 2 years ago, so because I made this point to Jack, I think we've got a worse manager now than we did when we got relegated in terms of Dean Smith. I think Dean Smith would have been a better appointment than Steve Cooper and a better appointment than Ruud van Nistelrooy.
Yes, I would not argue with that at all. I think we all got blindsided a bit when we took Enzo on because he'd come from the Pep school of management, Manchester City's number 2. And 6 days before he signed from us, he was holding the Champions League trophy. He'd literally been a manager for 12 games at Parma or something. Now I know he got it right, and he got us up, 17 points clear, but he also lost 16 of those points.
To be fair, it doesn't matter if you go up by 25 points or 1
point.
No,
it doesn't. But what I'm saying is, when you look at him, it's always this fantastic manager. He got us all these wins, yes, but he also got us all those drop points as well. And I think that Dean Smith would have brought us back up, and I think Dean Smith could have kept us up this season.
Yeah, I don't disagree with it, to be honest. But the problem came, though, wasn't it? When he walked, we were approaching every manager under the sun, and no one wanted the job. Which, again, I think is more damning on the ownership and the structure of football. Because we're led to believe that Top is some fantastic owner that we should be grateful to have. Then why does no manager want to go near him with a barge pole?
I think King Power are the owners that everybody wanted to have. But I think that the key word there is wanted.
Yeah.
Because, we had the best owners, but we've been caught up and we've been overtaken. Look, I actually said, I had a chat with Craig this time last week, and I was asking if Seagrave is the biggest white elephant going, because we've really achieved nothing since then. No players have come through, although you could argue that it's the managers that haven't been bringing them through. But you're looking at a team like Bournemouth down where I live. Look at them. Their ground's 11,000 max or whatever it is. Their training ground, which should be finished by the end of this season, it's as good as, if not better than ours. So any momentum we had by having this fantastic training ground, we've lost, and other clubs are catching us up.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think the training ground, and I was in the comments of that video, I think that's one that you need to give it almost 5-10 years to see actually what level of youth players you're starting to produce from it. Because I think it was about 3 years ago, was it? 4 years ago we moved into
Not 4 years. It's not far off the 5. Yes. Yeah.
I think because it's about youth players and seeing creating sort of a production line of young players coming through. If we're going to be brutally honest, I think since we've moved into Seagrave, we haven't had the quality of players coming through that we had before. Harvey Barnes, Ben Chilwell, Dewsbury Hall, all came through before we moved into Seagrave.
Yes. And what big players has it attracted? I said, and you would have heard me say this, like, it's okay with these big names coming along and saying, "Whoa, look at that fantastic training ground. Isn't it brilliant?" Oh, hang on a second. Before I sign, where are Leicester in the league? Oh, yeah. It doesn't matter if we introduce them at Buckingham Palace. They're still going to look at us as a club and see where we are.
It's like you look at West Ham, they've got a few porter cabins as their training ground. It's not exactly stopping them signing like top tier players.
Exactly. I've got to say, does anybody, or do you, Ant, or does anybody in the chat watch The Traitors?
I don't know.
You don't? No. Well, every morning every night somebody's murdered, and somebody every day is also voted out, and they've got all the pictures up on the wall. And once you get voted out or murdered, there's a big red cross goes against them. So I did this a while ago, and it was based on the Mercury going 14 transfers that Leicester were supposedly chasing. As you can see there, how many red crosses have gone through. There's a couple there with no crosses on because they didn't actually turn us down, and there's one green tick there. Is it £1.32 million right back? That simply is not good enough, is it?
Well, Burnley have spent more than us. Sheffield United have spent more than us. I think Sunderland have spent more than us. It's like we're not even competing with the championship clubs in terms of what we're financially spending. And I know it's not about what money you spend, it's about who you spend it on. But come on, it's like I wouldn't have cared if we'd spent like 5 million and just got a right back and a centre back if they're the right player. But I don't have any faith in this board to do that. But where's the money gone? Honestly, where has the money gone?
Look, Ash Mandan says time for fans to rally. We're supposed to be having this march. Is it for the Arsenal game?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? I'm not sure that that's the right thing to do. But I know on one of the shows last night, one of the Leicester shows, were talking about having, telling that the players aren't good enough to wear the shirt. The fact of, that will get to them. But surely, if that's what the fans feel, the fans pay the money, they've every right to shout that.
Yeah, well, if it's getting to them, to be honest, I couldn't care less after seeing that game against Everton about if it's getting to them and they're struggling. It's like you're walking around the pitch, for God's sake. I actually couldn't care less. It's like if you see a team that's given everything and just aren't good enough, fine. I really don't think we're having that. I think we're having a team that's sort of half-arsed, massively overpaid, and most of them will be off in the summer anyway, or any decent ones if we go down, and we're going to be stuck with players that are well beyond their best on huge wages. So I actually couldn't care less. It's like if the club are going to treat us like customers, don't be surprised when the fans start acting like customers. It's like if you're a customer and you buy a product and you're not happy with the product, you're not going to just sit there and happily clap it. So if you want the fans to act like fans, treat them like fans.
Yeah, yes. I mean, Asherman said that. I mean, get behind the team. We have to be the extra man. They've got to earn the right for us to do that. I'm sorry, we've got people here that are on basic salaries. They're buying the tickets. They're taking the kids along. These guys are on 100 grand a week, 70 sort of minimum, and they are putting that sort of effort in. I'm sorry, they've got to earn the right for us to get behind them, haven't they?
Yeah, it's like, the Great Escape season. Like, we were losing games left, right, and centre, but you could see every player every week was giving absolutely everything.
Yeah.
I will get behind that, and I will always get behind a team that I think is giving absolutely everything, regardless of results.
Yes.
I'm not going to get behind a team and sit there happily clapping whilst I think that I'm having a piss taken out of me by 11 players that couldn't care less.
I lived in Burnley for 20 odd years, and I had my children in Burnley, and I started to take them down to watch to Turf Moor to watch football because they were the local team, and it was getting them into football. And I remember at one point they were so unhappy with the board and the management that they still went and watched them, but they actually turned their back on them for 15 minutes or whatever. So as one, every fan, apart from the away ones, had turned their back on them. Yeah. Either that, or you hit the club in the pocket and say, I'm not going to buy a ticket this week, or I've bought a ticket, but I'm just not going to go and let them play in front of an empty stadium.
Yeah, I think that's the way to do it. But it's like, my question is, if I don't buy my ticket, someone else will take that spot. And actually, people won't like this, but this is so true that if I give up my season ticket, it probably won't be put up to resale, and they'll have people going on one-off matches, which actually will earn more money than me paying a season ticket.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm what do they call it? Is it a member? Well, because I live away, I don't have a season ticket because of the travelling now, and I don't have a car basically, but. I used to get an email maybe once every 6 weeks or so saying, oh, tickets have gone on general sale, do you want them? Every home game and most away games, I am getting an email saying tickets have gone on general sale.
It's funny because my boss is an Everton fan, which has been great this week, as you can imagine. But he was saying, because he lives in Leicestershire, but he occasionally would go to a Leicester game a few years ago. So he's got a ticket history, hasn't been to a Leicester game in about 4 or 5 years. And he was saying, I keep getting these emails about coming down to a King Power for tickets. It's like they are desperate now, because I think they've realised that they pissed off that many people.
Yeah. Well, Gray says there, don't buy the merch. And I've got to be honest with you, I usually buy all 3 shirts. I didn't particularly like the blue one this season, but I was probably going to get it at the end of the season in the sale. But I'm not now. It was always my way of supporting them by buying merch. But again, the number of sales that I get within a week with emails about the tickets and emails. I mean, I think there's a promotion on at the moment, 30% off or something. I've never known my football club have so many offers on merchandise, and like you say, I think they are getting desperate. I mean, what have they put up this week, right? So if we've followed on from Everton, so what have they got on this week on the on the YouTube channel and on the website? Oh, Steve Walsh talking about Silence of the Rams. I mean, that is so sort of like, trying to get us to get behind the team again, isn't it?
It's almost like shut up and be quiet kind of thing.
Yes, but yes.
I've just typed into my email about tickets, so I can get tickets for the Arsenal game, can get tickets for the West Ham game, can get tickets for United away, can get pretty much every game. I'm getting messages about tickets for. Before, I would never get those emails because it would very rarely go to being able to buy another ticket on top of my season ticket.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think half of that is they've priced a lot of fans out of going, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've got 4 kids. Thankfully, only one of them's really into football. So otherwise, I could no way. I used to love going when they were growing up, and I used to take them all out. We had, dad days out sort of thing. And I lived in Burnley. I used to love going to watch Preston because they always classed the Leicester game as a family day, and kids would be £1. And I tell you what, those matches were always full. The ground was always full. But look, talking of the January transfer window, which has been an absolute disaster. I was in bed. I'd done a show earlier and I went to bed at 9 and I didn't even bother staying up for it. Alvis has left the building. What a wasted 6 months. And I know that Rude wasn't here at the start, but Rudkin was, whoever the loan manager was. He has sat on the... Well, he's not even been sat on the bench, has he? He's been sat twiddling his thumbs for 6 months. And we've now said, well, we'll send him out and get him some game time ready for next season. If we sent him out at the start of the season, we could have been recalling him now and maybe making the most of him.
Just like, I think that I'm glad he's gone out on loan. And we've talked about Will Alves and young players to death about how there just doesn't seem to be a pathway for academy players at the moment. But like, for me, and this is very depressing of what our January transfer window was, I'm not a massive fan of this move of Will Alves going to Cardiff, but I still think it's the best bit of transfer news that's come out of over January.
He was getting no experience or anything because he wasn't being used. He wasn't even on the bench, was he? And but that should have happened at the start of the season. If you're going to keep him, play him. And it's not like he's 16 anymore. Do you know what I mean? He's is he 21?
I think he's 19.
Is it 19? Is it right? So what was Wayne Rooney doing at 19? But I just think that kind of sums up our whole transfer policy at the moment. I just want to show this because this is interesting. I know it's the Sun, so bear with me. But if it did end up like that at the end of the season, we'd all be happy. But they've got us finishing 17th. Now, this was only done yesterday. So this was done at the end of the transfer window. They've still got us finishing. 30 points keeps you up. Oh, that's lower than Forest's 32 last year. We're not going to finish that high, are we?
I hope and pray we do, but I can't see what's that. Wolves to get one? Is that 1 or 2 more wins all season?
Yeah, 6 wins to get 24 points. Tottenham to finish 16th.
It's not happening, is it? Like,
no.
Being very realistic about it. We've got 4 wins so far this season, so they're predicting for us to win another 3 games.
3. Yes, yeah.
Can you see that, Chris?
Well, I was going to ask you later, but let's go straight on to it now. I mean, our games coming up. Forgetting the Man United Cup game on Friday, we've got. I hate this new website. So we've got Arsenal at home, Brentford at home, West Ham away, Chelsea away, Man United away till the end of March. Can you see us getting any points out of that?
No, and the thing is, you could do the same with probably Wolves' and Ipswich's fixtures, to be honest. But I think what gives them the edge over us is every time I watch Wolves and Ipswich, even though they're not particularly results aren't coming, they're still fighting and battling for everything.
Yeah.
So you do see the odd result where they sort of turn a team over and you think, fair play to them. But I don't think we've got the fight to do that.
No, Tony says that computer is smoking something. That computer must be a ZX80. But Trashant says here, looking at the King Power business reports, Top seems to be more focused on building the duty-free business in a post-COVID phase. I understand this, but you need to remove knobs in charge of your club. He's obviously said what he means there, but he's right. That's what we were saying before. he has got that business, and he comes over for the matches, and he was at Everton. But I mean, he must have. There's done nothing. There was him sat with next to what's he called, John Rudkin, with Whelan behind, watching. Have they got sort of, a Man City game on or a Nottingham Forest game on those little computers? Because they cannot be watching Leicester and thinking this is a good way forward.
No, it's concerning, isn't it? And it feels like, as I said earlier, that it's the same conversations that we were having 2 years ago and 3 years ago when we were getting relegated.
Yes, yeah. There's the picture. This was of them at the King Power, though. I mean, they're not the three not so wise monkeys I've put there. I mean, looking at the looks on the faces, what do they do after the game? Do you think they actually go down and actually speak to? And I don't expect them to go into the changing room, but actually speak to Rude about, they should have got to have meetings, haven't they, after the match? And they just say, yes, Rude, no, Rude, 3 bags full, Rude.
It's like they look depressed and angry and fuming. It's like it's like that meme. Have you seen, where they're not happy with the sandwich at Subway? It's like, you made the sandwich.
Yes.
Why are you looking so angry? You made it.
I just, I mean, that kind of sums them up. I just, like I say, I just think he's got to make decisions. I mean, look, why in the transfer window, why can't we transfer our director of football? I mean, what's the guy that went from Newcastle to Manchester United and then Manchester United sacked him? I don't think he's gone anywhere, has he?
No, but
I mean, I wouldn't mind him coming in.
But with the director of football, I struggle to think of a director of football that's been in place for as long as Rudkin has. Like, has the game just passed him by, and has it moved on well beyond what he's capable of?
I think so. I mean, I don't know what experience he's had in football, because he started training, didn't he, free of charge. He came along and got involved in training, and he's kind of worked his way up from there.
Well, he was a youth player, wasn't he, originally? He was a youth player at Leicester.
Right. So, I know he managed the youth team or something for a while, didn't he? But
he was academy manager in 2003.
Yes.
He was a youth player in 1998. Before I was born, Chris.
Thank you, mate. Cheers. Hang on. Let me just take that knife out my back. There we go.
And then became director of football on 2014, December 2014.
Dan Ashworth was the guy I was thinking of there. We should have got him in. Rudkin's still dealing with fact rolls. Look, let's
have a look at John Rudkin's Wikipedia page. So, director of football. On the 14th of December, Rudkin replaced the outgoing Terry Robinson as director of football. Since his appointment, Rudkin has received criticism from Leicester City fans for missing out on a number of targets, but this has culminated in an embarrassing episode for the club in 2017, where the transfer documentation was sent 14 seconds late to the FA for signing Sporting Lisbon midfielder Adrian Silva. This is despite Rudkin having already sanctioned the sale of Danny Drinkwater to Chelsea minutes earlier.
Oh, I know. I mean, I would say if this was a business, he would have been sacked by now. This is something I suggested as well. Nigel Pearson for director of football.
No, I'm not a fan of that. I think you need someone who's actually fully qualified and fully has experience as a director of football. I love Nigel Pearson, and I think we all do. We need someone who I genuinely think someone with no links to the club is the best way to go, as someone who's an expert in rebuilding football clubs.
Look,
I hadn't even sat down for that first goal.
Sorry?
I hadn't even sat down for that first goal.
No, well, I couldn't get a stream. I was struggling with the stream, and I'd missed the first 2 goals. And when I came on, and by the time I was watching, I was going, "Oh, we've gone 1-0 up." by the time I'd done it, I'd looked round, we were 2-0 down. I mean, 4th fastest goal in Premier League history, fastest goal in Everton's history. Wilfred Indeed has got 4 assists for us this season. Jordan Pickford's just gone and got 1 for Everton. I mean, that we beat. I mean, how shit must Spurs be? I mean, we beat Spurs the week before, and then we go in and put, for me, the worst performance of the season in that game. All right, if we'd lost it and we'd gone, we'd, like we say under that Pearson in the Great Escape year, we'd actually gone down 2-1 fighting or something. Because they're now 9 points ahead of us, Everton. We'd have cut that down to 3. We just did not.
It's like the players didn't know how important. It looked like the players didn't know how important the game was, or at least didn't care. And you know what's funny about this game? My mate that I went with, like he missed 3 of the goals. First goal, he was still getting a pint downstairs. Third goal, he went for a minute early before half time to go and get another pint. And at the end of the game, he went down like just before the crowd just get another pint. So he missed 3 of the goals.
Well, he was lucky then, wasn't he? Let's be honest with you. I mean, what are the defense doing? Now I'm gonna put this up now. Because I want to this picture, I think probably sums Rude up because I think he was caught off guard when this picture was taken. But look, he is a clown, isn't he? He's gone out and bought Kubalier, who is a right back, and yet he continues to play a left back in that right back position and keep him on the bench until about the 80th minute or something. The crowd shouting, you don't know what you're doing. He doesn't know what he's doing.
I'm not Rude's biggest fan, but it's like I said to you earlier, you could put anyone in charge of his team and they're taking us down. But he's making it a lot easier for teams than it should be. Playing on the halfway line with Vestergaard and Wout Faes, it's like, why don't you just get a shotgun and shoot your foot?
Yes, I get what you're saying. It's like that season when, we went down to 3rd tier. Everybody said, it was Ian Holloway's fault. Ian Holloway, the following season, got Blackpool promoted to the Premier League. So he wasn't a bad manager. Nobody could... that was writing on the wall for about the previous 3 seasons. But what is this guy doing when he looks at that back 4? All right, I know we won the Spurs game, but before that, he'd lost 7 on the trot. Did he make any changes? No.
I feel like, though, and I could be being very unfair on Rude now, he's doing what Company was at Burnley, not doing what's best for Burnley, doing what's best for Rude and him going forward for his sort of play style and him playing in a specific way that another club will look at and think, yes, it hasn't worked at Leicester, but there's a lot of principles and ideas that might translate well here in a similar way that Company did last year, where if they just tightened up a bit defensively, sat slightly deeper and maybe gave up a bit of a ball at times, they probably would have stayed up or given themselves much more of a chance. Yeah. Rude is doing what's best for Rude, not what's best for Leicester.
No, it's a very, very good point, that. Because I don't think he's looking at those players and saying, which he should be doing after 7 straight losses, this isn't working. The players can't play this formation, and then at least trying, as he did in Spurs, changing things round. And it's funny, he changes things round and we win the game. We don't play out from the back and we win the game. The guy, look, I know we can't sack him. It would be stupid to sack him. A, would be turning into a blue Watford, and B, I don't think any other manager would make any difference now. But he is, at the end of the season, if he keeps us up in 17th, I still want him gone at the end of the season. I don't think he's the guy to take us forward.
If he keeps us up, I think he deserves to stay, and I'll disagree with you on that. But then he needs to have his own players to improve and put forward his ideas. But he should have had that in January. So it's like, if you're not going to back him in January when we're in this desperate sort of situation, you're not going to back him at any point, are you?
Yeah, I agree. that January was going to be when he got his own players in, his choice of players, and he would, be turning things around. But is he the man to take us forward? I honestly don't think he is, because if he is, he would have not been playing the same formations with virtually the same players week in, week out for 7 weeks and getting beaten every week. He would have at least been trying different things.
No, but I also don't trust the board to get an appointment right for if he does go. And if we're honest, we'll be back in the same position where no manager will go near us, because they won't want to work under this ownership and this board.
Yes, yeah.
So I just feel like we're chasing our own tail again if we do get rid of him.
Very, 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 very good point. Look, this was the lineup. Was Hermansen brought back too soon, do you think?
Probably in hindsight, but it's like it was before the game. No one was complaining about Mads coming back.
Funnily enough, I've got to say, in Craig's defence, he actually did still pick Solarczyk in there, and maybe bring Mads back for a thing. But I mean, again, like I say, how do you defend him still playing Justin at right back? I mean, I can remember going to...
It's like...
Go on, man.
I was going to say, like, Justin, we know he's not good enough. Like, it's absolutely no news to us. And it's like, we've brought in Koulibaly. It's like, he's not even going to get given a chance, is he?
But he should be. Justin... I can remember going to Southampton away last season, and funnily enough, Vardy scored in the first minute. And Justin had just come back from injury, playing right back. He was absolutely useless. And I remember saying he should not be on the right. But I tended to sort of give him a little bit of play, because I thought, well, maybe he's only just come back. It's his first game back. But he plays on the left, so you alternate him and Christensen and move him over to the right only if Koulibaly is injured or banned or whatever and can't play for whatever reason. You play a right back as a right back.
It's funny idea, that, isn't it? Playing a player in their best position. It's
shocking
revelation as a manager.
I know. Who would have thought that even come up with that idea?
But I'll tell you what was very clear, though. David Moyes had targeted the same ball over the top, because you look at the ball for the first goal was very similar to I can't remember which was the other goal they scored, but they were continually trying that ball in between our two centre backs, because they know it's like the Chuckle brothers between our two centre backs. And then we've got James Justin, who's an absolutely out of his depth at right back. It's like David Moyes is like, he's not a fashionable manager, but I would have taken him here in a heartbeat. Just look at what he's doing at Everton.
Definitely.
People are too fixated on the style of play, and I think with our next manager is. But he'd identified a weak point, and that Everton team just kept going and going and going at the same sort of areas of the pitch.
Indeed. Talking of centre-backs, we nearly lost Cody, but we would have got Craig Dawson in.
I genuinely really dislike Connor Cody's attitude. He's supposedly here because he's this great leader, this, that, and the other. It's like he's on more podcasts than he is on the football pitch. He's on $100,000 a week, yet he wanted to and was trying to push for a move to Wolves on deadline day. Wolves, our direct rival, by the way, to be staying up in the Premier League. Surely he should not play another game for us after that.
Was he pushing for it?
Reportedly so, from people like Rob Tanner, and I believe John Percy said the same as well.
Fair enough. I know it was a swap deal, but I didn't know he'd been pushing for it. In that case, yes, no, he shouldn't. And I mean, Craig Dawson, I mean, it had sort of memories of Ryan Bennett.
Thing is, I liked Craig Dawson as a centre-back 2 or 3 years ago. I thought he was really solid. But it's like Jordan Ayew. It's like Bobby Decordova-Reid. How many more 3-plus-year-old players are we going to buy? And we're going to give him a decent wage and a decent length contract as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Cody is better on 5 Lives. I mean, at the start of the season, this is something Brad used to say was always on podcasts and on Talk Sport. But in fairness, at the start of the season, it was never being played. So
he's not really playing now, to be honest, is he? But
you know, something as well, on the pitch, isn't he?
You know, have you seen his podcast with Still Ryan, the Everton fan? So he did a podcast with Still Ryan. By the way, lovely lad. But Connor Cody still lives in Merseyside and travels every single day to Seagrave from Merseyside.
No.
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
It's like, how are we allowing that? Like that, for me, that's absolutely ridiculous.
And that, I mean, that's going to be a 4-hour each way, isn't it?
Not quite. When I go up to see my family up that way, it's about 2 hours each, 2.5 hours each way.
Right. But you're talking, let's say, 5 hours for when they're traveling. I mean, it's a joke, isn't it? You know. Yeah. But just saying here, in the Athletic, they're saying Leicester do now have 2 players for every position. Not all of them fit, obviously, but it's very difficult to argue that the quality in the squad has improved enough to give them great confidence of Premier League survival. I mean, it's so true. Are we saying it really is? We've got to be thinking about the Championship next season, and we ain't going to come straight back up, are we?
I can't see it. And also, I'm so fed up of has that come from the Athletic, by the way?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm so fed up of the way that the Athletic and all of the other journalists are trying to spin a positive out of what has been an absolutely crap window. So I really wish that they would just call it as it is instead of always trying to be like happy clapping, keeping the club happy. So saying we've got 2 positions it's almost an insult to a fan. Like it's an insult to the fans. It's like, have you not seen this team play? We've barely got 1 player for each position, but like let alone 2.
Well, we have got 2, but you know, how good are those 2? That's the question, isn't it?
It's they know what they're doing, and they're just taking the piss out of the fans, putting a message out.
I mean, do you think they're worried that they won't get the interviews that they asked for, and they're trying to lick the club's arses?
Probably, but I saw a brilliant interview with Jordan Henderson yesterday, where he was being interviewed by a Dutch reporter, and that Dutch reporter was absolutely sticking it on him and using quotes that he's come out with in the past, and not just saying, "Oh yes, Jordan, no, Jordan," like really, really like pushing it to him. And it's like I would really like to see that, but unfortunately, and I know that you look at like all the BBC journalists for Leicester. It's all very easy questions. It's never anything too difficult for Jordan. And the same as all of the other journalists that are in those press conferences, they never put any pressure on the manager there. It's always very easy questions. I think the last person who did was Ian Stringham, and he was gone pretty quickly after it, wasn't he, to be honest?
That's the thing, yeah. I just, and it's funny, and I would just love somebody at the club to come out and talk to one of us YouTubers, whichever channel it happens to be, just so that, you know, they can, like you say, answer the proper questions, not the pre-prepared who's in the team this week, any news on Indeed, and all the same questions every time.
It's like, the thing is, they do the bare minimum with communication. I know they have the fan the fan group meetups, don't they, where they have someone come in there.
It's once a quarter or something, isn't it? You know,
it's once a quarter, and I don't know, because I would rather honestly do anything else and go to one of those, because everything I've heard about them is that the questions are all preset, and there's certain questions you're not allowed to ask, and it's like, well, if that's the case, it's a waste of time.
Yeah, I know. Dan, the Burnley fan, he's on one, I think, with the Burnley football club. But I think it is once a month. And again, there's certain things you can't ask, I suppose, but he generally says it's pretty much they can ask what they want, you know, and there has to be a level of trust there. You know, they have to sign a thing to say that they won't say anything. But yeah, once a quarter's not going to make any bloody difference, is it?
No.
Tony says here, smallest away following at Old Trafford in a long time. Not surprised at those prices when it's on telly.
I'm not going, and it's like I've been to pretty much every game this season. It's like I'm not paying that. They can, and to be honest, that's Man United more than Leicester with those prices, with it being an away game. But yeah. Absolute joke.
Do you think? And we'll round it up now. We've done an hour. But do you think that if we do get relegated, Rude will either A, walk, B, be sacked, or C, stay with us?
I think he will probably walk because his ego seems to be a level above what his managerial ability is.
Yes, I think you're probably right. And like I said earlier, Fatala's just said, the club dropped that Leicester is the place thing with Walsh, Elliott and Taggart players my dad loved to watch. Yes, it's funny that they did that, didn't they? Just we've had a bad result. I don't know where our next points are coming from. I'm actually not going to be here for the Arsenal game. I'm actually going to be on holiday, and I've got to say I'm going to be sat in a bar somewhere warm in Lanzarote, just slowly getting pissed while it's on.
I'm hoping you're going to be surrounded by Arsenal fans for that, mate. Just I was going to wish you well, but the fact that you're saying that you're in a bar, going to be having a lovely time, I hope you've got a few Arsenal fans.
Yeah, well, I can say that they won't take it. They won't take it out on me because they'll be busy celebrating all the goals they're going to score.
I just hope, and I don't expect us to get anything from Arsenal, but can we at least give a bit of a fight and like show something? Don't roll over and have our bellies tickled like we did against Fulham and Palace.
And why can we do it against Spurs, who went on at the weekend? Yeah, they are shit, but they went on and beat Brentford. And to be honest with you, they were lucky because I don't know if you saw that game. The first goal was an own goal, which went off the back of the shoulder of one of the Brentford defenders. And then you could see, you just knew Tottenham were going to get a second goal because Brentford were throwing everything at them. So it was always going to happen. But at least they showed something in that Tottenham game. Do you think these Leicester players think they're better than they are? And they're like, it's only Everton. We're going to get something here anyway. Do you think that's the attitude they've got?
If that's the case, then they need to have a real hard look at themselves. But I just think a lot of them just don't care, to be honest. I really do.
No, I mean, somebody's just put up here how many players, just bear with me, are actually out of contract at the end of this season. Let me just see if I can get it up. There's a lot, to be honest with you. So they're probably thinking that where is it? Oh, have we got it? So, all right. So contract expiry 2025 June. Vardy. It's actually not that many. Actually, Vardy, Edouard, which we obviously can't wait for that. Buenete, Danny Ward, and Danny Everson. Vardy. I hope we don't give him another contract because I really do think he's being played when he's not really. If we're saying he's the best we've got, what does that say about it? That a 38-year-old is the best we've got.
The thing is, he should be being an impact sub off the bench, like to run defences ragged for the last 20, 25 minutes. Yes. I genuinely cannot believe he is our starting striker still. And it's like we all rightly love him, but it's very damning that our starting striker is a 38-year-old striker who, like, we are running into the absolute ground, and it's almost not fair on him at this stage.
It's not. I mean, he played 3 games in a week, didn't he? And he played virtually 90 minutes in all of them. I think one he came off early, but it really, that kind of, in a word, sums up our club at the moment, doesn't it? But look, I'll leave you with the words of that very well-known poet, D. Ream. Things can only get better. Whether with this season or not, who knows? And look, thanks very much for coming on, mate. I appreciate your honesty as always. Where can people find you?
Yeah, cheers for having me on. So I've been bouncing around a lot of people's channels at the moment. At the moment, my channel is pretty much done for the time being. But if you check me out on Twitter, and _ LCFC.
Brilliant. Link is for your YouTube channel anyway, is in the description below. And all the best, mate. Let's go off and cry into our tomato soup now. And fingers crossed for Friday. Take care.
Cheers.
And thanks for everybody that's been in the chat. Podcast will be available in about 15 minutes if you prefer to listen. Take care. See everybody on Thursday.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You better like them too, or I'll be back.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network.
TalkSport. Powered by fans.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.